Angie never got the chance to let loose her volley of mad. With a bang and a puff of blue smoke, an ancient, oversized van truck lurched into the parking lot on their side of the street. Mel and Angie whipped their heads in the direction of the noise. "Is that—" Angie began, but Mel was already rising to her feet. "Yep, it is," she said. "I'd recognize that shaggy mane and the other bald head anywhere." Angie began to shovel the last of her sundae into her mouth. She slapped her free hand to her forehead, and Mel knew Angie had just given herself a walloping case of brain freeze. They hurried to the cashier's window by the exit and paid their tab. Mel rushed back to leave their waiter's tip tucked under her soda pitcher. "But Oz and Marty are supposed to be watching the bakery," Angie said as she followed Mel out the door. Mel was pretty sure the blast of heat that smacked her full in the face as she stepped outside singed her eyebrows. She tried to look on the upside, as in no waxing or plucking, but people without eyebrows just looked odd. She ran her fingers over her brow bone just to reassure herself that they were still there, and then felt positive that the acrid smell that was assaulting her nose wasn't burnt hair, but rather the noxious blue smoke coming out of the tailpipe of the decrepit van in front of her. "Oz," she called to her young intern, "what are you doing here?" The young man, who had been the bakery's paid intern since last spring, turned to look at her from where he had his head under the hood of the van. "Hey, Mel," he said. He stepped back and opened his arms wide. "Check it out. Isn't she a beauty?" "That depends. Is she a contestant in a demolition derby?" Angie asked. She was fanning the back of her neck with one of the thick paper napkins from the sugar bowl. "Heck no," Marty said, stepping forward. He was a dapper older gentleman who had come to work in the bakery several months before, when Mel and Angie had discovered that if they were to have any sort of personal life, they needed backup. Oz and Marty exchanged excited glances and then spoke together. "She's your new cupcake van." Mel looked at Angie and assumed her dumbfounded expression mirrored her own, and then looked back at the van. She took in the oversized white behemoth, which reminded her of an old bread truck. It was covered in faded good humor and blue bunny ice cream stickers, and she felt her powers of speech evaporate as she tried to form a response. "I know it isn't much to look at now," Marty said, "but we could trick this baby out, and it would be sweet." "Where did it come from?" Angie asked. "Mi tío Nacho. My uncle Ignacio left it to me when he died last year," Oz said. "It's been in my cousin's garage down in Tucson, and they finally drove it up." "That's great, Oz," Mel said. "I'm so happy that you're going to have some wheels." "No, it's not just for me," Oz said. "You two gave me my first job at the bakery, and I want to give back. Marty and I are thinking we can motor around the hood and sell cupcakes." "In that?" Mel asked. She had visions of her carefully cultivated image for the bakery going up, well, in a puff of blue smoke. "Come on," Marty said. He took Mel's and Angie's elbows and half-guided, half-dragged them toward the back of the van. "You just need to go for a ride, and you'll see the potential." "All right, I'm going," Angie said, and she shook Marty off. Oz hefted up the rolling door in the back, and Mel and Angie climbed aboard. Vintage steel freezers lined both sides, and Mel took in the scratched, sliding window on the left side of the truck that appeared to have been retrofitted. There was no seating. Angie plopped down on the floor, and Mel sat beside her, while Marty and Oz scrambled into the front. Mel wrinkled her nose. Something smelled bad, like an expired dairy product. She suspected the smell lingered in the beige shag carpet, but she didn't want to get close enough to verify her suspicion. It took 3 turns of the key and a punch to the top of the dashboard to get it going, but the van finally coughed itself back to life, and Oz backed out of the parking spot, using the overly large side mirrors to guide his way. The polyester shag carpet that covered the narrow strip of floor between the banks of freezers